Post-match analysis for Chat with Chaps, where it finished at the Den. Millwall 3, Preston North End 1. Another great performance, another 3 goals, another game that was exciting. How good is it to watch the team at the minute? We're not going to win every week. Of course we're not. But I said to my old man before the game, I was like, we're either going to win this 3-0 or we're going to lose 1-0, which obviously was the Luton game and the Sheffield Wednesday game that preceded it. And yesterday was just an excellent performance. I felt we took our foot off the gas, if I'm honest, with the last sort of 15, 20, a little bit complacent. But if we'd have carried on going, a 5-6-0 drubbing wouldn't have flattered us, I don't think. It was an excellent performance with a little bit of the gloss taken off at the end, which we'll get into. But I'm just really enjoying watching our team at the moment. I think Neil Harris deserves so much credit, and we're going to talk about this. It's like the perfect evolution of playing style. It's still a Millwall team. It's still up and at them, direct, not much possession. I think we had 36% possession yesterday, but we're creating chances, we're scoring goals, we're entertaining to watch, and we play some nice stuff. Long may it continue. And look, it's not always going to be like this, but whilst it is, let's enjoy it, right? And it was great yesterday. And I landed back. I was at my cousin's wedding over in Cyprus, hence the glow. And I landed back at I think it was like 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, I've got to go. I've got to get down the Den. And I'm so glad I did. What a performance. But, look, let's get into it and let's look at the starting 11 that played. It was much of the same, wasn't it? It seems to be a fairly settled 11 now, which is Lucas Jensen in goal, Ryan Leonard right back, Japhet Tanganga, Jake Cooper and Joe Bryan as a back 4. 2 centre midfielders, George Saville, Casper Denor, Roman Esse on the right-hand side, Duncan Watmore on the left-hand side, and then George Honeyman in behind Macaulay Langstaff. Another, obviously, slight injury blow, although it sounds to be back, for the game against West Brom next weekend. But Aziz unavailable as well. So that saw Wes Harding return to the squad. It's crazy that we've got, 6 people out now, and obviously 2 more for Tuesday's game at Cardiff, which we will come onto. So look, I think, first of all, I want to say, I don't know if anyone else did. I thought the crowd was disappointing yesterday. I think it's 13,500, but it was a Saturday. It was 3 o'clock. So, the whole Sky thing, you can't blame. And we're playing well. So, yeah, I was a bit surprised at the crowd, but I don't know, maybe that was just me. Preston didn't bring many, did they, either? So, but the game started, and I think we started again. The first 10 minutes, we came out the traps flying. I think, 30 seconds into the game, Honeyman won the ball back high up the pitch, which just sort of set a precedent for, the pace and the tempo that we were going to play at. And in the opening 10 minutes, we had a couple of chances. There was a, half chance on the turn from Tanganga after Esse had been fouled and didn't get a book in, and you could see Esse's passion there, and well managed by Joe Bryan. He sort of pulled him away. We had the Casper Denor volley on 10 minutes. What a goal that would have been. And the first sort of 10 minutes, I thought we came out the blocks, and I just kept saying that we need the goal. My mates were taking the piss out of me because, of course we need a goal. We need to win. But do you know what I mean? It's one of those games where the first goal was really important. And I just felt that if we got it, they would collapse. And I think for the first 50, 60 minutes, apart from 1 or 2 chances, which we will come onto, they did. At times, they had a lot of space down their right-hand side. They kind of pulled their right centre-back out. Then they had Brad Potts, and then they had Josh Bowler. And they were getting a little bit of joy down the right-hand side. But on the whole, we managed to nullify it. There was a couple of other sort of nearly moments on 20 where Duncan Watmore just didn't make that right decision and release the ball. But, we definitely started the game on top. And then we get our goal on 24 minutes. And again, Romain Esse fouled. I've been trying to fact check this, but I do believe Romain Esse is the 5th most fouled player in the league. And I think that's only going one way. The amount of fouls he wins, which again, to me, is a sign of a player that oppositions just can't control. Excellent performance again from him yesterday. But he wins the free kick. The ball comes into the box, and it did almost have like I don't know, like a training ground sort of routine thing around it, because the ball was pumped over. Cooper headed it back across. Honeyman was in an offside position, but he didn't touch the ball. He then allows Langstaff to make the run out wide, as then Honeyman switches and moves inside. Langstaff, ball across the box, and George Honeyman scores a goal that is basically an exact replica of the one that he missed against QPR. And we're going to talk about George Honeyman a lot today, because I've been banging the drum about George Honeyman for a long time. And I've seen some ridiculous comments like he's the worst player I've ever seen in a Millwall shirt. It's so unfounded. But he has been outstanding this season. Yes, he should have a couple more goals, but ultimately, I think it's fair to say that if Honeyman was a better finisher, he would not be playing at Millwall. He would be playing in the Premier League. But he got his goal, and you could see what it meant for him, and all the players rush over to him to congratulate him, which again is testimony to the togetherness of the group. And he talked about how kind all the players had been with him. You can just tell how much of a well-respected member of the dressing room that he is. I mean, all of the lads seem to be, which I think is a big part of why we're doing so well. And again, I think Neil Harris has to take some of that credit, not all of it, but some of that credit. And we go 1-0 up on 24. However, and this is where moments change games. And on 28, and shout out to Millwall Tube, by the way, because this is the only way I've seen it back. So shout out to Millwall Tube. There is a save that Lucas Jensen makes. They had a little bit of a spell. They had a couple of chances, Preston, again, coming down that right-hand side. And I don't know if this was Josh Bowler who took this shot, but it's across the face of goal. And Lucas Jensen, for a big guy, gets down with his legs. And it is a very good save. But it's also, again, just how important that save is, because that sets the scene. That allows us to go on and get that second goal and to have that 2-goal cushion coming into half-time. Would they have deserved an equaliser? No, they wouldn't have done. But you don't always get what you deserve, as we found out last week against QPR. So it was a really important moment in the match. And I think it is important to take stock of just how important that is. How many times have I said important? Because goals change games, and that would have changed the whole trajectory. The crowd would have got a little bit iffy and things like that. So massive, massive moment. And then, of course, we do go on and get our second goal, which comes from one of their free kicks. So the ball's played into the box, it's cleared away. By the way, from a Preston perspective, one of the biggest sides I've seen at the Den, actually. And I felt they did not take advantage of their set pieces at all. They're a big side, and other than obviously Cooper for us, they're bigger than us. And I just felt they were poor. I thought overall Preston were poor. We outfought them, we outplayed them, and I just felt, obviously they made a number of substitutions. Why Frocchia didn't play, by the way, he for me, if you listen to this, Preston fans, he's, from my perspective, by far and away your best player. And why he didn't get more minutes, obviously he came on towards the end. I don't know if maybe there's an injury that I wasn't aware of. I knew Will Keane had not going into the game, but I just felt that Preston, very similar players. They were quite one-dimensional. There wasn't much pace in the team other than Holmes, but Joe Bryan did largely a good job up against him. Quite one-dimensional. It was almost like, tell you what the players reminded me of is like a poor man's Ian Fleming. So someone who's got quite a lot of technical ability and can play nice little passes, but in terms of being able to beat a man, and I don't know, and at times sort of similar football style to Gary Rowett, which, it bored me to tears under Mr. Rowett as successful as he was. So, just a little note there on Preston. I wasn't particularly impressed with them. And I think they could struggle this season based on what we saw yesterday. But anyway, we get our second goal. The ball is cleared, and then it comes to Honeyman. Watmore's already on his bike, and Honeyman plays a nice little ball over to Watmore. And initially, you think Watmore's going to outpace the defenders, but he doesn't. What he does is he sort of just checks himself, looks up. Romain Esse makes a super run across over to the left-hand side. And times his run to perfection. I'm just going to flash it on screen now for those of you that are. So I've snipped this just at the moment as he's about to release the ball, Duncan Watmore. And for me, Romain Esse is onside. And, but, you know, what he still has to do from that moment is fantastic, because what happens is the angle's really tight, but to have the composure to round the keeper from that angle, then slide it into the net. It was just fantastic. I mean, just to stop and pause and talk about Romain Esse, I'll be completely honest. I felt he had such obvious quality last season, but there was no output really from it. There was no numbers, and there wasn't the consistency, and there wasn't the defensive side of work. He has come on leaps and bounds this season. It's not a completely different player, because you can see glimpses of this quality last season, but the confidence he's playing with, it looks like he's bulked up. He's doing the defensive work. He is a joy to watch. He has come on leaps and bounds. And again, Neil Harris has to take credit for that. You know, he felt that last season maybe wasn't quite right, but this season he's gone, you're going to be my man. You're going to be my main man. And having players like Honeyman around him allow him to flourish. They really do, and that's why this combination works really well. But yeah, Romain Esse, he is just a joy to watch. Carries the ball so much, gets brought down, fouls, and every time we win a foul, we're good from set pieces, right? So yeah, really, really important, and you know, a vital cog in what is a very, you know, good team for us at the moment. But you know, another assist for Watmore. Another goal for Romain Esse. Great for him to get his first goal at the Den. He'd have enjoyed those celebrations. And we go in at half-time 2-0. Now, they make a couple of substitutions at half-time. I think Andrew Hughes was whipped off. He was one in our opposition preview. And well done to George, who did that last week. Real great job, mate. Said that he could be a weak link, and I felt he was. But halftime comes and goes. They have a little chance from Josh Bowler, but then almost immediately we make it 3-0. And the ball is played forward from the keeper, Woodman. I think Woodman's a Millwall fan, by the way. Pumps it forward, but Joe Bryan's aggressive front foot anticipates it. And he did this a lot yesterday, Joe Bryan, and gets to the ball first ahead of Holmes, wins that first contact, plays it to Watmore, but bombs down, you know, taking a man away. And then Watmore plays it into Honeyman, a really good pass. Again, Watmore involved. This man, yeah. You know, the amount of people that take the piss out of me saying you've got Duncan Watmore on the wall. Well, this season, it sounds like a masterstroke, doesn't it? But yeah, finds Honeyman. And I don't think Honeyman means to make this pass to Langstaff, but he does. This one, I'm not so sure isn't offside. So I've tried again to freeze it here, and it's not the clearest, but I think Langstaff is just offside. But look, we've had a fair share of bad luck. So we'll take it. And it's a great finish. He's in the right place at the right time. And again, another impressive display by Langstaff. Rounded off nicely where he gets his first goal in a Millwall shirt. And I couldn't be more happy for him. I thought he was really good again yesterday. But again, Honeyman involved, Watmore involved. You know, the front four are just three at the front four scored yesterday, right? And obviously Watmore got the assist, so really good to see that happening. We have another good chance where again Joe Bryan, good work down the left hand side, cuts it back to Denor. Just needs to get his head over it, blazes it over the bar, and if he'd have just sort of looked up and just sort of passed it in, I think he might. You know, that could have been 4-0. And game, set, and match. But I've noted here that, you know, even at 3-0 up, the pressing from a corner of theirs to force them all the way back to the goalkeeper was just brilliant. We didn't at that point we hadn't just settled at the 3-0. We were still putting Cooper up for throw-ins and corners. And up until the substitutions, I felt if we'd have carried on playing in that intensity, we could have won the game 4-5-6-0. We didn't. And whilst I think the subs slowed us down, I think they're the right subs, because having fresh legs in a 3-game week is really important. So Mihailo Ivanovic came on, Brian Wintle came on for Langstaff, and was it Watmore? I think it was Watmore. And it was interesting because Wintle went to the Honeyman role. I guess just sort of relieving Honeyman's legs for a little while, which was, I think, the right idea. I don't think Ryan Wintle is that sort of player, but I think it just allowed Honeyman to sort of get a little bit of a breather. Honeyman did come off in the end. I'm just going to check this whilst I'm recording. I'm sure you're all fine with that. But I'm sure he did come off, but he didn't come off at that point. He came off on 91. Of course, it was for Murray Wallace to give his deserved standing ovation. Anyway, but I felt that we started to get a little bit complacent, and whilst we still had some really good moments, I've noted down here a crunching tackle from Joe Bryan that on 70, which was really sort of one of those tackles that get the crowd up. Obviously, Imaku and Danny Mack came on for Romain and Ryan Leonard. Again, the right things to do. Obviously, in hindsight, with Imaku being sent off, but the right things to do to rest the legs. I did feel we got a little bit complacent though. And look, we're 3-0 up. They need to score. They're going to push forward. They're going to press, and some of it's just a natural cycle in a game where 3-0. I always felt we had more levels that we could get to. And how many times have we said that about other teams? Where they're winning and they sort of take their foot off the gas. And it was nice to say that about us yesterday, because I feel like we did. And one player that just reminds me, that always just seems to have more levels to get to, is Japhet Tanganga. Like, some of his touches are just out of this world. They are truly Premier League quality. It was a moment on 77 where I can only describe it as, you must have just got bored, because he sort of went on this run for a little. I think he won a free kick, but at times, him and Denor, I have to say, yesterday, some of their little touches. It might be like Tanganga will clip it out first time to a fullback, or Denor will first time sort of play it just behind himself because he knows there's someone there. Just some of the touches from those two yesterday were outstanding. I thought both again had great games. I've noted down here that Jensen makes another good save on 83, which you could tell they were coming into it, and obviously they get their goal on 86, which their clean sheet bonus is gone, and it's disappointing because I didn't put a bet on 3-0, but I was so confident ahead of yesterday, and I'd been gutted after that. Probably not more than the players are, because I'm sure if they have clean sheet bonuses, they'd be fuming, and they were fuming. You could tell, and it all comes from a really pointless free kick given away by Joe Bryan, which is why, by the way, he's not in my contention for man of the match, because he done some fantastic things yesterday, particularly defensive. He's really aggressive, front foot. He won a lot of first balls, but he does stuff like this, and he gives a pointless free kick away. Ball comes into the box, and sort of falls to their player, smashed into the net by Jordan Story. I think, thankfully, even at 86 minutes, it would have been very difficult for them to score another 2 goals. I mean, we've all seen it happen, haven't we? But that was frustrating. And then we have another really good chance. So I haven't been out seeing this back, because for some reason it's not on any highlights that I've watched. But Ivanovic has a really good chance. I'm not sure who puts the ball into the box, but really good sort of turn and shot from Ivanovic. It's a good save from Freddie Woodman in goal. And then, of course, we have the bit that does sour the mood with Imaku being sent off. Now, I've seen it back many times, And by the way, I still don't know, and loads of people seem to have different opinions on this, as to whether or not it was a booking and then another second yellow to make a red, or if it was a booking and then a straight red. I think the latter, that it was a booking and then a straight red. So, look, I think looking at that particular incident, I think you have a young lad who is desperate to impress. And I think sometimes he tries too hard. And I think he'll learn from this experience, because it's one of them that's, I don't know if I call it a dive or not. The leg was out, right? And all players do it. They try to sort of contact that leg. I can't quite work out whether there was any contact whatsoever. But he probably thought, what I'll do here is I'll get another player of theirs booked. We'll have a nice free kick. We can waste more time. Happy days. Because obviously, in hindsight, if he hadn't gone down and he wasn't touched, then he was in the penalty area. So this comes back to that inexperience and decision making. Then, of course, because he was frustrated with not winning the free kick, Robbie Brady, who's a fellow countryman, by the way, uses his experience to frustrate Imaku, gives him a little clip whilst he's down, and then goes down like a sack of spuds. Did Imaku gesture forward towards him? Yes, he did. And it's stupid, and he's been sent off. And I think, you could tell Neil Harris didn't even look at him when he went off. And he is someone that based on no knowledge at all, but I think, given how busy his agent is at times, the fact that it was clear that we were looking to loan him out, but we couldn't obviously get someone else to come in. The fact that he hasn't featured from the subs bench the whole time Aziz has been fit. I think he's already quite low down the pecking order, and I think that's just going to make it harder for him. So it's a shame, but I'll be surprised when Aziz is back if we see Imaku for a while. Because there's a kid there that's clearly got a lot of talent. And at times last season, I remember saying that I felt Imaku could be the one that goes on and establishes himself in the first team this season over Esse. And they've almost had complete different trajectories in the first part of this season. And obviously, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I found that interesting. But, the game finishes and we win 3-1. And look, I'm going to flash this up now as well, which is a really, really interesting sort of visual of kind of XG and how it's formed. So shout out to Rich_analysis96 on Twitter, who does these for Mill every week. So check him out. But this just shows you that, and there's various different sources, but we were creating an XG of 2.6 versus Preston's 0.96. And I think it's really interesting, because we are now second in the XG table in the league, which is just phenomenal, really, when you think about it, and the sort of progression that we've had. And I think another thing that's really interesting is that all of our XG in the first half was from set pieces, but then the second half, our XG was still higher than Preston's, despite us only scoring one goal each. And we only had 28% possession in the second half. So, what that tells me is that we're really effective at counter-attacking and creating good chances without the ball, which, we've all seen and witnessed that. But I thought that was really interesting. So a couple of observations then. I think the first one I want to make is around the man of the match. So it was hard this week, actually, because I think everyone played well. Lucas Jensen made great saves at vital moments. We talked about Joe Bryan. He had a really good game. I thought some of the touches from Casper Denor and his overall play was brilliant. Langstaff had another good game. Tanganga was it. You could make a number of them, but I've gone for George Honeyman. And I just want to talk a little bit about George Honeyman, because for me, he is so vital to the way we play. And I find it really interesting that since Zian Fleming has not been in the team, we look better. We look like a better team. We look like the front four are closer together. Although we have Romain Esse, who is the flair player, if you like, not everything goes through him. And what Honeyman allows us to do, which then Fleming, it was never his strong point, is that press. And I think a lot of people will not realise just how vital George Honeyman is until he's not there. And I've been banging the Honeyman drum for a long time, right? I don't always get everything right. Of course I don't. Football's opinions, and some people might still be sitting there saying he's still no good, and that's fine. You're entitled to an opinion, right? But I just think Honeyman just brings so much to the team. You know, he allows SA to flourish. The just setting the pace of that defensive work that he does. So it almost feels like a 4-4-2 from a pressing perspective. And what he does is he just allows everyone to be that little bit closer. And let's not underestimate, just by watching that press from Honeyman, others will be, it just evokes an atmosphere. Everyone else is gonna do the same. I just think he's fantastic. And I think we haven't been having a bit of a debate on our group chat today around who would you play if Honeyman weren't fit. I think it's an interesting point because I don't think there's anyone that could play that role. You know, Ryan Wintle did it, but that's certainly not his role. So I think you'd have to change the system. And I think only then you'd realise just how important he is. So just want a massive shout out for George Honeyman. You know, Harris did that and said he's been our most vital player this season. And I think he has. And I think when we first signed George Honeyman, a lot of us tipped him to be player of the year just because by his manner of the way he's always performed against us. And I think this season, if he carries on, he will be player of the year, despite a lot of other very relevant candidates like Romain Esse, Javid Tanganga, because Millwall appreciate the sort of player that George Honeyman is and what he brings. And he also seems a real top bloke off the pitch. If any of you haven't listened to his interview and his wall talk, I suggest you do, because he comes across like an absolute gent, in all honesty. And then I want to talk a little bit about Neil Harris. So, again, I've always been Harris in. And look, there'll be some weeks we get thumped 3-0 next week. I'm not all of a sudden going to change my mind, but there'll be some people that will, and that's fine. But Jesper sent me this earlier, and I think it's a really good way. I'm going to flick this up on screen that just shows you the evolution season to season. So for those of you listening on a podcast, you basically got touches in the opposition box last season versus this season to date. So last season, we were 21st for touches in the opposition box. This season to date, we're third. And that is such an evolution with the same group of players, pretty much. That is the other key thing. The strikers changed around a little bit because obviously we've had Langstaff for a little bit, Coburn for a little bit. But other than that, and Esse's in the team, Esse was here last year, it is the same group of players. When you look at the starting 11, you know, obviously Jensen, but it's the same group of players. So that doesn't just happen, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say I think Neil Harris is a tactical genius, but I think what Neil Harris has done, and I said this at the start of the show, is it is almost the perfect evolution of playing style for a Millwall team. It's not. I think we're second bottom for possession in the league all season, and I'm all right with that. Would you want to see a ticky-tacky Millwall style? I just don't think it would work. But what it is this is a team that focuses on a couple of different ways to play, and we've talked about this, you know, playing down the sides. And the second way that we play is high press recoveries and winning the ball further up the pitch where we can create more damage. And they have to be deliberate. And if they're deliberate, then Harris and the coaching staff have to take credit for that. I think the other thing that Harris has to take credit from is, despite what some people may make of his interviews in the last couple of months, and some of the things I've even thought, oh, I'm not sure about that. But quite clearly, everyone is playing for him. Every single player is going on that pitch and they are giving their all. And regardless of how good someone is, that's all you can ask for. He has created an environment where there is spirit. Even little things like the subs come off, everyone goes up to them. At the end of the game, everyone's hugging. Liam Roberts at half time, the first thing he did was go up to Lucas Jensen and give him a big hug. The same at full time. You know, there's so much togetherness there. And I think Neil Harris needs to take a lot of credit. What Harris knows how to do is to build an environment and a team and a togetherness. And it seems that somewhere, somehow, and it could just be that these players are that good and he's just taking the shackles off and he's not actually giving them that much direction. Or it could be he's a tactical genius. I don't know. Obviously, I don't see what goes on. I can only see what I see on the pitch. And I see a team that is very Millwall-like in their approach, very Millwall-like in the way that they're together and they're fighting for everything, but also playing some really good stuff as well. And it's just a joy to watch. Like I said, this isn't going to be like this every week, but whilst it is, let's enjoy it. And I think everyone at the club deserves a lot of credit at the minute. We've got a very winnable game, if I'm allowed to say that, on Tuesday away at Cardiff, a team that haven't won all season. Admittedly, apparently they were better than their drubbing at Hull deserved, but that'll be another interesting game. Can we go there and get a win? How much better would it look, to have 11 points after 8 games? We would be, in my opinion, much closer to where we belong in terms of what the table is showing us. So, look, it's very positive. I think someone was due a bit of a drubbing. I think if we hadn't taken our foot off the gas, it would have been 4, 5, 6, and it still could have been, even with the chances we created. And only one team in the league at the moment is creating more opportunities than us. And I think, again, that's just testimony to the evolution of the style of play with largely the same group of players over such a short period of time. And that doesn't just happen. So again, massive credit. I do think there's something in Fleming not being in the team. Fleming was very, a lot went through him, whether that was for under an instruction of manager or just the way we play, but a lot went through him. Taking him out of the team, we are now playing to our strengths of individuals. So therefore, Honeyman, press. What more? You press, but also be tricky. Have a little bit of a free roam. Take players on. Essay. Shackles are off. Just go and express yourself. So Harris, again, able to get the best out of players by ensuring that we're playing to their strengths. We're not a one-man team, and there's just so much togetherness, so let's just enjoy it. So a little bit longer than normal. Sorry, guys, I've gone off on a tangent, but I thought there was a lot to get through, and most of it's good stuff in terms of its positives. As always, thank you very much for listening. Shout out to Stocky, by the way. You know exactly why I'm saying that, mate. But yeah, shout out to you, mate. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you always for listening, guys. It means a lot. The channel's doing well. And if you haven't, and you're listening to this, please just hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing. Or just leave a comment, on the video, even if it's just hi. Doesn't matter what you want to say. Slag me off Martin or whatever. I don't care, but just leave a comment because it helps the channel, and that's what we're trying to do, as we say, as we're trying to raise as much money this season for Cancer Research UK. I'll leave it there. There will be a post-match after the Cardiff game. Probably won't be an opposition view before it because I just don't think we've got time, but there should be one for the Derby game next Saturday. As always, the boys are working hard to make sure we've got lots of content coming out. So thanks as always, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.